Hello everyone, welcome to this news hour on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. Our top stories in this edition of the news: former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo returns home after over 10 years in a trial at the International Criminal Court. He was responding to charges of crimes against humanity committed or allegedly committed during the post-election violence in his country. He has returned to the country. He arrived at the Houphouët-Boigny International Airport some minutes or hours ago, and we have our correspondents on the line, our special envoys to Ivory Coast, and we shall be getting more details with Cedric Nufele on the line to the Houphouët-Boigny International Airport in the Ivorian capital Abidjan. And in other news, the commander of the 5th Military Region, Commander or General Brigadier General Cavalier, cautions soldiers deployed to the northwest region of the country against the non-respect of ethics of their profession. He was speaking after an operation in a Bui division, an operation which left several persons dead on both sides. The former president of Ivory Coast, Laurent Gbagbo, was returned home to Abidjan. That was earlier today, this evening, nearly a decade after he was ousted from power and sent to The Hague to face war crime charges. He was later acquitted by the International Criminal Court. Laurent Gbagbo's homecoming is viewed as a key test of stability in Ivory Coast, the world's biggest cocoa producer and a strategically important country in Francophone Africa. Gbagbo's return was enabled by Ivorian President Alassane Dramane Ouattara, a long-time political rival who accepted the homecoming plan in the spirit of reconciliation. Earlier this year, the Hague-based ICC, International Criminal Court, upheld an earlier acquittal of war crimes and crimes against humanity charges during Ivory Coast's 2010 to 2011 post-election violence that saw more than 3,000 people killed. Former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo is now in the country's capital, Abidjan, and several persons converge on the Houphouët-Boigny International Airport. Militants, supporters of his party, and of course other Ivorians who converged there. And we are going live to the Houphouët-Boigny International Airport to meet Cedric Nufele. Cedric, good evening.
Les traditionnels sont ici des chefs utilisés depuis le matin pour l'attendre et pour bénir leur fils qui est de retour en Côte. La crainte des organisateurs, c'est l'euphorie que pourrait susciter une descente du véhicule si un président ivoirien. Je tiens à rappeler que le protocole d'État et le comité d'organisation avaient prévu un itinéraire entre l'aérogare et le salon d'honneur du pavillon présidentiel. Laurent Gbagbo a refusé, selon nos informations, de respecter ce protocole. Ses proches ont quitté le pavillon présidentiel pour se rendre au QG de campagne en 2010. QG de campagne établi en 2010, devenu aujourd'hui le siège du Front populaire ivoirien à la rivière à Troyes, en plein cœur d'Abidjan. police essaye de former un cordon de sécurité autour du véhicule dans lequel se trouve l'ancien président ivoirien. Difficile de faire entendre raison aux curieux journalistes et sympathisants de l'ancien président ivoirien qui souhaitent capter une image du président du FPI court en comment va-t-il procéder? Alors la police demande aux curieux, aux journalistes de reculer. La ceinture de sécurité déployée ici peine à tenir parce que tout le monde veut voir Laurent Gbagbo, tout le monde veut le saluer. Une importante foule à l'extérieur du pavillon présidentiel. Les militants de Laurent Gbagbo sont très animés, très enthousiastes à l'idée de pouvoir saluer le président de leur formation politique et leur ancien chef d'État, Laurent Gbagbo. Je précise que l'ancien président se trouve dans une voiture de marque Prado, Toyota, de couleur noire.
Eric Florent Watat, Carlos Minuit, bringing to us latest updates from the Houphouët-Boigny International Airport in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, following the arrival of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo after 10 years at The Hague, facing a trial over charges of crimes against humanity and war crimes. And of course, he was acquitted by the ICC, the International Criminal Court. And latest information streaming in from Ivory Coast indicates that Laurent Gbagbo is no longer at the Houphouët-Boigny International Airport, but he has taken another direction away from the direction that was initially announced by protocol and security officials. And a huge crowd of supporters and sympathizers of the former president and his political party are still at the Houphouët-Boigny International international airport struggling, doing everything possible to see Laurent Gbagbo, to see the former president, and the security forces are having it quite tough there in containing the huge crowd of Ivorians who converge on the Houphouët-Boigny International Airport. We shall be going back to Ivory Coast for more details with our envoys to Abidjan in the course of this newscast. Meantime, we now take you to the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, and we're going to talk about the one of the last major military operations in the Bui division. These operations aimed at putting an end to secessionist activities, and that last operation left several persons dead on both sides, on the sides of the National Armed Forces and the non-state armed group fighters. And speaking to reporters, the General Cavalet, commander of the 5th Military Region, gave some details and said that he has instructed the soldiers deployed to the northwest region to avoid disrespecting ethics of the profession in the course of the operations. Stella reports.
Separatist fighters say they are fighting to protect the people and create a state called Ambazonia. The government of Cameroon says they have the population at heart and are working towards protecting them, their property, and the integrity of Cameroon. Fighting between the two has caused deaths, displacements, and loss of livelihoods. The population seem caught in between. Their only struggle is to survive. The territorial boundaries of Cameroon are threatened in the northwest and southwest regions. In the northwest, offensive and counter-offensive operations are being carried out. The most recent is codenamed Bui, carried out by state forces between May 15 and June 15, 2021 in Bui Division and its environs. In the northwest these days, anyone who is not a target is a victim. For fear of what may happen, this courageous resident of Kumbu speaks to Equinoxe television on the basis of anonymity.
Both sides of the divide, they are multiplying attacks on one another. The population is feeling the pinch. You will bear witness with me that we have an agro-pastoral oriented population. They live on this for their livelihood, and that you can't find cattle again in the hills. It's difficult for people to move to their farms safely because they live in fear and tension. Loved ones have been buried outside, and sometimes the ransom that they're asking to bury our loved ones is just too much.
For the last 2 months, separatist fighters believed to have been led by self-made Ambazonian General No Pity carried out attacks at the Lassen Gendarmerie in Noni subdivision and Galim in the west region, making away with stocks of war arsenal and killing officers.
Que leurs corps et leurs âmes reposent en paix. À ceux qui ont été blessés, un prompt rétablissement.
At the end of the first phase of Bui, these arms and munitions, fetish-looking gadgets known as Odeshi, gallons, the operation commander sees contains fuel and motorbikes as some of the items the men on the front line battling to keep Cameroon's territorial boundaries say they recovered during the operation. Be on the alert, Brigadier General Cavalet told the troops in Kumbo as Ambazonian General No Pity is still on the run.
Nous avons constaté, malheureusement, que 60-70% des décès de nos hommes dans la conduite des opérations sur le terrain sont dus aux violations de consignes. C'est inacceptable pour les hommes en tenue. Il y a un individu qu'on appelle No Pity. Ce monsieur reste une cible prioritaire, je vous l'ai dit.
Bui Division has been described as the epicenter of the crisis, with the motorbike sector contributing enormously.
We know that much is still left to be done, and we hope that as we bring all the other actors on board, notably the traditional rulers, the elite of the locality, the church leaders, the traditional authorities will be able to continue the pacification exercise and give peace a chance in Bui Division.
Bui Clean is the third major operation that has been carried out in Bui Division since the change in military command at the helm of the 5th Joint Military and 5th Gendarmerie regions. These operations are yet to restore calm in the division. Over a meal with the troops, Brigadier General Carvalho says the operations will continue until the population can go about their activities freely.
Northwest correspondent Stella reporting there, and calm is yet to return to the two English-speaking regions of the country after close to 5 years of fighting in those regions, and hate speech has been a contributing factor worsening the situation, and the National Commission on the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism is at war against this ill in the Cameroonian society in general. Members of the commission were in the southwest regional chief town Boya. JATO reports. DERICK JATO reports.
Cameroon is being torn apart by hate speech and xenophobia.
It goes with the social media and it goes everywhere. So we need to fight against it, and we're here to build a coalition.
A country with over 250 ethnic groups is divided almost the same number.
We have to be very careful to make sure that one ethnic group does not develop hatred to the other, or that some ethnic groups don't cabal against others in order to foster selfish ambitions.
Unity is fast fading out, and this has come to the notice of President Paul Biya.
Our president felt, and rightfully so, that we should spread this campaign to the regions so that the message doesn't end up only in Yaoundé, but should also be vehicled to the respective regions.
And the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism is commissioned.
The head of state feels that we should say enough is enough to hate speech and xenophobia, and that Cameroon should move ahead with its unity in diversity.
And today some of its members are in Boya in a meeting with various stakeholders drawn from the southwest region to exchange notes on the way forward. And this is part of the new national campaign against hate speech and xenophobia in Cameroon. Hate speech is today a monster, no doubt, but unfortunately, hate speech is winning and gaining more grounds every day in Cameroon. And for the healing process to start, genuine root causes must be identified. The National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism preached the gospel to these southwest stakeholders.
And the people of Kumba-Nimeme Division, southwest region of Cameroon, are suffering not just because of the unstable socio-political and security climate reigning there, but because of electric energy supply, poor electric energy supply. They have been for several days without electricity, and the return of electricity has come with another problem, low voltage. Listen to some of the inhabitants.
I have not been able to work due to power failure. Then it has also helped in causing a lot of problem between me and my customers, because I was not able to stick to the rendezvous that I gave them to come and collect the addresses. So I had to do some extra expenditure to buy petrol in order to catch up with my program. Even as you can see right now, I'm about to work. Then there's low voltage, the machine cannot carry. If you see for yourself, if I happen to match the machine, it won't be able to turn, but the machine is on. It's not turning. From the look of things, you can also take example from the fan. Nothing is turning. We are just there. So life is very difficult.
Very difficult time, I must confess, since the creation of this facility, because we went for so many days without electric supply. Although Ideal Lab is powered by a standby gen, we had to run the cost of maintaining our reagents inside the refrigerator So we had to go on standby generator for so many days, and that's something that we've not experienced ever since we've been doing business in Kumba. So for a common man, we know with us here, we depend on Sonel a lot, because this is a laboratory and we have to maintain certain reagents at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. So during this time, it was a very difficult moment for this business, ID Medical Laboratory in Kumba.
It's not quite easy to survive without electricity. So like the situation in Kumba, at times we spend up to 5 days, even a week, without electrical power. When it's like that, it's really not easy, because for us to feed our families, most of us, we have only this electronics maintenance as a profession, no other means of survival. So basically, if you don't work for about a week, that you're depending on a daily income, then it's really not easy to survive. So finally, at times, the electricity comes, but there is another situation of low voltage. Even when it comes, to manage it is not easy. Low voltage, you cannot even use the light confidently. All right, but the situation is really bad. The electrical situation is really bad.
The three young men who produced a video that went viral on social media, in which they were complaining about the embezzlement of billions of francs CFA by some state officials and the difficult socio-economic situation in which young people are living today, have been sentenced to 1 year imprisonment each, and they also have to pay each of them the sum of 500,000 francs CFA as a fine. This verdict was handed down by the Mbanga Court of First Instance earlier today, and the three young men produced that video in which one of them used insultive words against the President of the Republic and members of the government, and they have thus been sentenced to 1 year imprisonment with a fine of 500,000 francs CFA each for attacking the personality of the head of state and for publication of false information. This information is contained in the verdict of the Mbanga Court of First Instance handed down today. Now take a listen to a legal point of view on that verdict. Barrister Tamfu Richard is a member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations. Take a listen to what he said.
Sentence that has been handed today by the Court of First Instance of Mbanga against three accused persons who were standing trial before that court for contempt on the President of the Republic and for propagation of false information is really surprising, because 1 year imprisonment term, 500,000 francs as fine, and cost of like 31,000 francs. To me, it's surprising, because we don't feel that justice has been rendered, because we know that these are ordinary Cameroonians, suffering Cameroonians, who maybe did not express their grievances through the proper way, but we should not forget that their grudges were legitimate. In a country where we have the minimum income salary to be 32,000 francs, and when people are not free to explain, to express their anger, their frustration, and when you look at the sentence, 1 year imprisonment, to me, I think the judge did not even take into consideration the fact that they could benefit from mitigating circumstances. I think it would have been better for that judge to have rendered even a suspended sentence so as to teach and educate these persons. Sending them to prison for 1 year imprisonment, to me, is not fair. It's not justice. Justice has not been done.
Several houses have been demolished in the Ndobo Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision without the eviction notified, or the persons who are concerned being notified. According to what some of them told us, they accuse a woman allegedly backed by some government officials of being at the origin of the forceful eviction. Innocent has more.
A demolition victim The crying claim of hectares of land in a marshy environment by a certain woman they say is the brain behind the unannounced demolition of their houses which accommodated them for several years in Dobo, Bonaberi, Douala 4 subdivision.
If go me figure land title Marrakesh, me tell we so all my day for Marrakesh, we go back for a village.
They claim the said woman is backed by some authorities, with the case in court not yielding fruits.
Baba de waka, baba de for court, de n'a pas tranché. Mais quand on a un problème, on parle en justice, c'est pourquoi la justice trouve la solution. Pourquoi on le paye avec de l'argent?
Most of them say they are now stranded and do not know where to go for shelter.
I went to collect my child's report card and I got a phone call of a demolition here. I left without even collecting the report card just to discover my house has been demolished. My children are still in their uniform and stranded. Where do I go to with orphans? I have been suffering with them for over 9 years. Let her own the land and get something productive on it. Let's see.
These disgruntled persons shun corruption and plead on competent authorities, the senior divisional officer for the Wuri division and the state council, to intervene and judge the matter fairly.
And in this newscast, we're going to take a look at one of the health problems affecting many Cameroonians, and the result often attributed to witchcraft and some magical or supernatural happenings. I'm talking about sickle cell anemia, and we are receiving a tradi medical practitioner, Dr. Muvala Marcel. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Babila Jonathan. And I'm also grateful to receive your invitation here this evening. Thanks to our viewer. I want to say that, as you rightly said, sickle cell disease is a disease that can occur if other conditions are left unverified before parents get married. So it is a hereditary disease. That is a genetic condition that comes as a result of recessive gene that affect the red blood cells. It means that if the mother and the father, they are carrier of this gene, of this recessive gene, then there is a very high risk that one or more of their children will suffer from this condition.
All right, and when it happens and the result, how is it managed? The result of two parents coming together and not going through the normal medical process that they should have gone through to avoid that. When it happens, how should it be managed?
Normally, in all medical settings, we advise premarital testing, a procedure that is known as erythrophoresis. It means that we get sample of blood from both parents and we check to see if one of the parents or both parents are carrier of this recessive gene, the SS gene. Now, if it happens, medical advice should be given to them, because any couples that come together with this recessive gene put their children at risk, because it is a disease that actually is not having any cure, and sometimes in the hospital we give only palliative care to the child, and you see most children that are born with this condition in severe state of crisis. So we think that it is very right for couples that are tested positive for this recessive gene or the gene for sickle cell disease to take it as a challenging decision not to get married in another way to better protect the health of their children.
All right, and for how long can somebody live with sickle cell anemia?
Sickle cell anemia, sometimes we say it is a disease of the children, because in most cases very few children reach adult stage, but some people can manage the condition because there are so many types of the disease. There are some that are not too severe, but the dominant type, the most common is hemoglobin SS. You also have hemoglobin SC. You have thalassemia also, which is less common, and people with thalassemia, that is hemoglobin SB plus and hemoglobin SB0. They can live longer, and in some cases if they can follow up with some medical advice, because there are some conditions that comes as a result of this illness, like they have frequent episode of anemia, shortage of blood. They are so prone to infections. In some cases, you have body parts swollen, like the toes and the hands. If these people can follow up with some medical advice and they manage their condition better, they can live a bit longer. But in most cases, the children at the early phase can pass away if they are not well managed at the level of the hospital.
All right, thanks very much, Dr. Muvala Marcel. The take-home message is that go for electrophoresis tests before getting married. Thank you so much for your time. Now in sports, Cameroon women's handball team will take on Angola at the finals of the senior women's handball African Cup of Nations in Yaoundé. Cameroon qualified for the finals after defeating Congo 21-20 at the semi-finals. And Sumanji Kangebre now files in details in this report.
It's been a smooth but tough experience for the women's handball team at the ongoing Senior Women's Handball African Cup of Nations in Yaoundé. During the opening of the competition, lodged in Group B, the senior women handball team marched over Kenya 40-16 before thrashing Nigeria 31-19. The Lionesses of handball faced stiff opposition in the group stage when they met with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Though stiff, the Lionesses finally defeated them by 26-21. The win placed Cameroon on top of their group with 6 points. At the quarterfinals, Cameroon faced off with Nigeria for the second time in the competition after beating them at the group stage. This time around, the Lionesses of handball hammered their opponents by 44-14. A victory that pushed Cameroon to the semi-finals of the competition. Congo was the next opponent for Cameroon at the semi-finals. Though many saw as the finals before the real finals, the match between the two was mouth-watering. At the end, Cameroon managed to seal its spot at the finals of the competition, pushing out Congo with a slim score of 21-20. Cameroon's opponent at the finals will be the Pearls of Angola that eliminated Tunisia after a tough game, 27-23. All four teams, Congo, Angola, Tunisia and Cameroon, will represent the African continent during the Women's World Cup in handball that will be hosted by Spain. The finals of the ongoing Senior Women's Handball African Cup of Nations will be played in Yaoundé on the 18th of June 2021.
Now we wrap up the first part of this newscast with an advertorial on Pavas Secondary and High School in Grand Anga, Bonaberi Douala for subdivision. It is one of the best schools in Cameroon's economic capital. Why not in the rest of the country, with very good and excellent results in both the GC ordinary and advanced levels? And the school also impact its learners with holistic moral values. Charles Cole.
Though the year has been a turbulent one, we are putting everything in place that the 100% we scored in the GC during the last academic year in both ordinary and advanced levels is maintained.
In his opening speech, the principal of Patrick Foundation, Anglo-saxon Education Secondary and High School, Uda Alfred Ayugo, paints a vivid picture of the educational and moral standards of the institution. Located in Grand Hangar Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision, this school has already graduated 4 batches with excellent results.
Here we had witnessed a great event, a graduation ceremony and award of prizes to deserving students. This is our culture. This is the 4th year we are graduating students, and we think that with this type of motivation, it is a way forward to stimulate the children to work harder. It is also a way to portray our image to the society. Our Anglo-saxon system of education, here we give general education from 1 to opposite arts and science, commercial education from 1 to opposite all specialties, and the new thing is that with the cry of the parents, we are starting the industrial section coming this 2021-2022 academic year.
A graduation ceremony of the 4th batch recorded a huge turnout despite the COVID-19 pandemic, says the chairman and representative of the founder, Jesse Abegesa.
Today is the graduation of the 4th batch of students of Upper Set and Form 5, and I'm very grateful that the attendance has been huge. We had a lot of parents who were here and other well-wishers, even parents who will be sending their children to this school next academic year. You see, it is eloquent testimony that they love this school. Despite whatever is happening, despite the corona, the school is still functioning very, very well.
Elated graduates also praise the good ethics, qualitative management, and utmost professionalism vis-a-vis the delivery of education.
It's a good school and a management of quality, as in of great magnitude. I came to this school when I was just a toddler, and the school taught me my rights from my wrong and taught me how to define my wants from my needs. And we represented the school in public exams. I've made the school proud. It's got good management, good staff, and not talk of the proprietor who has been motherly to us, and the principal who has been fatherly to us in and out of all the seasons.
If you are looking for a good school and a reputable Anglo-Saxon secondary and high school for your children, Pafas in Bonaberi is the right choice, with the right staff to provide you with the best education.
We are the ones to make a better day, so let's start it. There's a choice to make it. Victory our life is to make a better day, just you and me.
Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. We are receiving Diwum Emmanuel, civil society activist and teacher. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila, and thanks for the renewed confidence in me.
Right, before we talk about these 3 young persons arrested in Penja who have been sentenced to 1 year imprisonment with a fine of 500,000 francs CFA, your reaction, first of all, on the return of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo?
Yes, I think my reaction on his return is half positive and half regrettable, because in Africa we have taken politics as a war, of which that was not supposed to have been the case. Because if I were to find out why was he out of his country in the first place, it was not for a good reason. But I think his return is a good thing, and I would have loved that as he's returning, it should be a genuine one, so that the wounds can be healed.
His return was accepted by the current president of that country, Alassane Dramane Ouattara, on grounds of reconciliation.
Yes, Mr. Babila, you see, that's what I have been preaching for so long a time now. Even the Bible makes it clear. If you have a problem with your brother, you have to forgive 77 times 7 in 1 day. of which it even makes it very difficult for somebody to wrong you 77 times a day. Now, the key word here is reconciliation, and lovers of peace talks about reconciliation. In fact, reconciliation is good, and it is best when it comes right from the heart.
And it is genuine.
When it is genuine, yes. Not when we are talking just because we want to gain something. Because remember, Ouattara is coming after he has already forced himself into another mandate that he had said he was not going to be part of that election. And so the only doubt in me is Ouattara really genuine? Is there reconciliation coming from his heart? And if it is coming from his heart, then it should be welcomed, and it should be emulated by some African head of state.
Analysts view the return of Laurent Gbagbo as a key test of stability for the country.
Yes, he is back in the country. Let us give the benefit of doubt in the days and the weeks ahead to see if there will be stability in the country. Because, you know, reconciliation is something that it is not done in a day. We can sit and talk now, and after a few seconds, our minds change again.
It's a process.
It's a process.
Now, the fact that he went to the ICC and after 10 years he was acquitted and discharged, is it a victory for Ivory Coast, for his country, for Africa?
Well, it is victory for Ivory Coast, his country, and Africa. But if we cannot conclude, because we don't know how people are actually, because that court is made mainly for African leaders. So that is where you see me, it's a behavior.
It's meant for everybody, but it's been trying mostly African leaders.
It is meant for everybody on paper, but practically it is meant for African. Let's say it the way it is, because you cannot cite one European leader that have been taken to that court. And the unfortunate thing there is that they always use Africans to kill Africans. Remember who was the sitting judge there? It is our own sister. And of course, things have been happening around the world. She has never for once thought that this person from the West should be touched.
Right, now let's come back home to talk about these three young men who produced a video in which they were complaining about embezzlement in the country of billions of francs CFA by state officials, and also complaining about the difficult socio-economic conditions in which young people, many of them living below the poverty line in the country today. But unfortunately, some derogatory words were used against the President of the Republic and government authorities, and this is why the Mbanga Court of First Instance has sentenced them to 1 year imprisonment with a fine of 500,000 francs CFA each. What do you think about this? That verdict.
In the Bible, again I go, there are times that we have to separate the sinner from the sin. We throw the sin and take the sinner, because the sinner will change. One, the first thing is that we should condemn the choice of words that these young guys used. But then, to be frank with you, they were talking out of frustration. Before I came into this studio, I calculated they are working on a salary of 32,000 a month.
6 to 6.
6 to 6. Under precarious conditions. And your feeding is very minimal. You calculate his yearly salary, his annual salary, it stands at 384,000 francs Babela. Another 84,000 francs is not worth what some of our scrupulous ministers spend a day with their girlfriends in this country. It is not worth what some of them spend to open an account abroad. And you see that it comes back to say they had a point, but there was a way to go about it. You will discover that the peace Cameroonians were enjoying generally before 2016 was simply because their eyes were closed for so long a time. Now that Cameroonians' eyes are being opened, you discover they are making their voices to be heard more and more. And because their voices are being heard more and more, the concerned are very angry. So I don't think the 1 year was very just. I think they would have given them the 1 year without a fine, or they would have reduced that term. I'm not a lawyer, but I think I'm talking from the civil society point of view. They could have given 6 months to deter such words from other peers, not one year, Babela, because the 1 year and the fine is not equivalent to what they earn in a year.
And Barrister Tamfu is a legal mind reacting to that, talked about a suspended sentence, that they should have given them a suspended sentence. Like in France, the young man who slapped the president, Macron, was given 4 months suspended sentence, and just
yes, the young man in France exercised his right and gave Macron a democratic slap. That's how I call it.
All right, it was 4 months. Thanks,
I think there's a lot of things in this country that we need to really put in place, and this government has been provoking the Cameroonians for so long a time. It's time for Cameroonians to start thinking of how to take their destiny
into their own hands. Thanks so much, Ndiwum Emmanuel, civil society activist and teacher. Thank you for your time. Thanks, ladies, for staying with us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us. Equinoxe comes up next.